Hi you guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Silver Dyer. I was born clairvoyant and I had a near-death experience in 2017 which clarified my journey and had me come out of the spiritual closet. And now I mentor other women through their spiritual awakenings. So if you're new, welcome. Please subscribe. Hit the bell so you're notified when I upload a new video. And if you're interested in sessions or classes or mentorships, you can find me at susandyer.com or on patreon.com. But this video is near and dear to my heart. It's about the term you may have heard called dark night of the soul. And I want to explain my thoughts and share some of my experiences. So stay tuned. So this term, dark night of the soul, gets mentioned quite a bit in spiritual circles. And if you aren't familiar with what it means, very, very simply put, it's an exceptionally painful part of your life. And this can look like many things. It could look like sexual abuse. It could look like drugs or alcohol. It could look like serious physical illness or a period of serious mental illness. It could look like eating disorder, anything that you can think of, Great Depression, for example. Anything you can think of that is in the index of human experience that has the power to really dismantle a person, to really affect them and traumatize them to their core. I just listed a few things off the top of my head. I think I've experienced all of those. I've had many dark nights of the soul. Many, starting from a very young age. And I actually used to take that as a sign of weakness or proof that I was somehow living wrong. And it wasn't until my near-death experience when I merged with that unnameable energy that goes by many names, God, source, whatever concept or name you call it, when I merged with that energy, my perception, looking backwards on my life, and the many, many crises and juggernauts I've been through, looked completely different to me. I had the beautiful blessing of being able to, in that experience, see their meaning and see how divinely purposed each one of them had always been. One way to think of dark night of the soul that I like, I don't remember where I heard this, but someone once described it as God performing surgery. And I like that because the results of getting through and transmuting a dark night of the soul are nothing short of miraculous. Each time you enter a dark night of the soul, if you commit to sticking with it and you don't give up, I want to assure you that Source itself and all your guides are with you the entire time. And if you don't give up, they'll never give up. So during these times, when you may feel the most alone, I want to tell you, you are the least alone. You have the most support, though it doesn't feel like it. But if you're in one of these phases, I liken it to a caterpillar. There are so many children's books written about the transformation and metamorphosis of a caterpillar to a butterfly. But the real story of how a caterpillar becomes a butterfly is gruesome. It reminds me of how the original fairy tales are usually very dark. And then when they get animated and Disneyfied, so much of their content changes to be happy endings and all of that. But if you go to the source material, like Hans Christian Andersen, for example, the real works, the real Little Mermaid, involve murder with a dagger, but that's not the version that we see. And in that same way, when a caterpillar goes into its chrysalis, goes into its cocoon, and spends that time in there changing to a butterfly, it's not just gently sleeping like a bear through winter. It is actually releasing enzymes and liquefying. It is self-cannibalizing. If you were to slice open that cocoon at the right point in time, the only material you would find in there is a protein-rich liquid with two very slim discs of cells. And those two slim discs of cells do stay throughout the duration. And that forms the anchor to which that protein soup kind of adheres to and completely rebuilds from ooze to butterfly. That's what really happens in a cocoon. And to me, that's the perfect metaphor for dark night of the soul. You go into a soul deep, bone deep crisis where while you're in the midst of it, you fear you may not be able to get through it. It's that difficult, it's that painful, and it can last that long. I've had dark nights of the soul that have lasted several months, and I've had dark nights of the soul that have lasted several years. And there have been many times where I have wanted to give up. And during my near-death experience, the first question, without speaking, but the first question that Source asked me was, do you want to stay here? Do you want to stay, or do you want to go back? That was the first question. And I made it very clear, no, I just want help. I need help to get well enough to go back. I want to get back and raise my children and do what I said what I had committed to doing before coming in. But that could have been an exit point for me. And if you look back at your life, if you're watching this video, I can pretty much guarantee you too have undergone some chapter of personal trauma. You've heard me say the term light worker before, and I'm not big on labels, but for anybody who is on the spiritual path, experiencing great contrast or great suffering is extremely common. And it's not just for everyday people like you and I. Mother Teresa had terrible bouts of depression. She had several crises of faith, especially as her reputation grew. She actually feared that as she gained fame, that her work would somehow be diluted. And even before that, she had crises of faith because of these terrible bouts of depression. And take Eckhart Tolle. He was suicidal as a child. He found comfort in the fact that there were trellises around his apartment building. I guess it was under construction. And as a child, he thought to himself, well, at least I have so many options here of places where he could hang himself as a child. And his spiritual awakening was instantaneous when he had this moment of realization, I can't live with myself anymore. I can't live with myself. And then he thought, well, who is this? Who am I living with? If it's not me, then who is this other entity? And he had an instantaneous awakening. But if you look into your spiritual heroes, you'll find they've all gone through their own versions of dark nights of the soul. And this is just my opinion, but it is based on many, many years of study and reading and personal experience. But I do believe it is divinely purposed, just as divinely purposed as the joy we experience, because as people on the spiritual path, with the desire to serve our fellows, we need a depth and weight to our character in order to relate to our suffering fellows. If we never experienced grief or loss or trauma, we would have no common ground on which to identify and bridge to those that we would help. That doesn't make it any easier to go through these times, of course. But having seen my life during my near-death experience, whereas before that experience, I just thought, my life is embarrassing. It is a string of juggernauts, a string of rock bottoms. But after that experience, I look back And I see that I was building a library of human experience that I would eventually use to identify with other women and to be able to say, I've been in your shoes. And I'm able to offer comfort and inspiration. I've been in your shoes. I'm not there anymore, and this is how I got out of it. This is what worked for me. Maybe you could try it, and maybe this could work for you too. And even if you're not a spiritual worker, let's say that's not your vocation, it doesn't matter, because you're on this spiritual journey if you're watching this video. And just having been through those experiences, you are certain to run into people or to attract or magnetize people who will benefit from your experiences if you're open to that. And in my experience, that's some of the most profound and life-changing help that we can offer, is to say, I understand, you're not alone. I was just the same way. I lived just the same way. Just the same thing happened to me. This is what happened. This is what I did. And this is what it's like now. Lending that hand and offering a way out. So if you've had a dark night of the soul, I hope this video helps you reframe it, so that instead of your thinking of it as a weakness or liability or having done something incorrectly, to see it as a piece of your human experience that is inestimably valuable for your fellows and for your own soul growth too. So I hope this helps and clarifies things. I'd love to hear your experiences with this, and I'll see you next week.